Hello and welcome to Oak Tree Dialogues, where we share ancient wisdom and new insight through meaningful conversations. Today, my guest is Robbie Lee Burda. Robbie Lee is a shamanistic mystic, a spiritual poet, a star finder, and a trailblazer guide. He generously accepted to share his story about childhood abuse with us in this series about childhood abuse. Robbie Lee, you have many names: shamanistic mystic, spiritual poet, star finder, and trailblazer guide. Can you please explain all of these roles that you play for us?
Well, shamanism, mysticism is more of a soul connection. We all have it within us. Sometimes it's just a matter of remembering it. I'm a trailblazer because of things that I've experienced and gone through in my life and had the willingness to part with ego and ask for help for a long time. My ego got in my way and I wouldn't ask for help in any way. I didn't realize at the time that I was getting in my own way. And being a star finder, I'm attracted to other people like me that are lighting up and shining in the world and helping the many people who are on the path of ascension right now. So I can pick out tools in a crowd, just naturally. So that's pretty much it. I mean, it's nothing real complicated when you let go, to go into flow, let go of ego, and connect to soul.
So soul connection is the special ability that you develop throughout your life, right?
Connecting to the soul and letting go of the ego. The ego wants to have control. Soul lets go of the control.
So let thy will be done, not mine, right? I hear you. I hear you that we do want to have control, and especially when we have so little control as a child. I think as adults, we want to have control over everything. Could you please share with us a bit of your life story?
Well, I came from a pretty abusive background. I mean, I was beaten in the womb before I was even born. And as a result of that, I was born with a crooked smile. And I'm legally blind in my right eye. But that had a lot of repercussions for me when I was little, because the other kids on the playground would call me retarded. And some adults did too. And crooked smile. So I would never laugh. I was a little boy who wouldn't laugh, or I would always hide my mouth, ashamed of how I looked. And it didn't help any that I came from a broken family with a lot of fighting and everything, and then I was kidnapped when I was 4 and tore away from my siblings and sent out to be raised all alone on a farm many miles away. And the people in my charge were overly religious, and they beat me up almost every day. And in their mind, they felt that they needed and believed that they needed to beat the devil out of them. To create a scenario. Well, they believed that when I did something wrong, it was the devil acting through me, and they needed to beat the devil out of me. That was their obligation. That's how they felt, which is probably a generational pattern of abuse. But coming from a broken background in the beginning and going into that environment was such a dramatic change, and I was so alone without my siblings that I remember the only friends I had was the shadows. I would play with shadows, and they seemed to get me. They weren't out to get me. You know,
You were safe.
and that raised up defensive pattern for survival. And a lot of us learn things when we're young that, you know, we're told no, 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 and we're a little bit different or creative when we're told. We're forced into, we're conditioned into following what everybody else is doing. And we don't have that, we're not allowed to express our own unique creativity. And we learn how to survive by compromising what's really in our heart. And that's where we start. We get conditioned in our minds. If we're told that we're wrong enough times, oftentimes we become to believe it. And what's sadder yet, if it happens long enough, we give up on trying to be who we really are with that soul connection.
And I feel that it's very hard to find our identity, because when we grow up as a child, we are building our identity, we are discovering ourselves. So when you grow up in such an abusive environment, it is not conducive to discover yourself, because as you say, you just mold yourself to others' expectations in order to survive. So did you have any trouble discovering yourself and like seeing your, like really who you are, what you like, what are your gifts? Did that take a long time for you?
It took quite a while because, you know, when I was little, I was able to see lights around people and I commented on it. I could see people's auras and so forth, and that was just more evidence to them that I must be demon possessed. So when I mentioned when we go to church, how come some people's lights are brighter and more colorful than others? They thought, you know, again, I was demon possessed. And actually, when I started speaking when I was little, I don't know why, but I didn't speak like most children. Everything I said was in poetry. It just flowed through me naturally. Well, that was more evidence to them that I was demon possessed because they'd never seen it, heard that before.
You are like that as a child. You were speaking, because that's one thing I love about you, about your poems and the way you speak in rhythm. And I find that so beautiful. So that's not something that you learned. That's something that was already in you and you just expressed.
Well, I didn't, after it was beaten out of me, kind of speak. I didn't speak in poetry again for, oh my God, 40, 50 years until I had my awakening. So I, you know, set up that defense mechanism to feel safe.
So you shut down parts of you that were not safe to express.
Right. And just to, I mean, they teach us, you know, when we begin school, they teach us right away that we are a human race. They don't teach us that we are humankind.
What's the difference between human race and humankind?
Well, human race teaches us the need for competition, to do more, be more, have more, to be better at, to strive, to have a better paying job, bigger house, send your kids to an Ivy League college.
So it's a race, like
human race.
You're racing through life, full speed and trying to get ahead. Okay.
Dog eat dog.
Yes.
Okay, competitive, especially in the male world, it's very competitive. They teach boys at a very young age to, big boys don't cry.
Right.
When you play football, you get hit really hard and you get knocked down. And you dare not cry, walk it off, be tough.
Be tough.
Walk it off, right? And then even, see, men who have heartfelt feelings do not make good soldiers in war. Because how could you kill another human being that has the same feelings that you do and maybe has a family raising children? So our society for the longest time was built, we were hypnotized with lies, and it was built on competition and greed. And one of the big ways they use it was by getting people to feel guilty, that there's thoughts we shouldn't have, there's feelings we shouldn't have, there's emotions we shouldn't have. And none of that is true, because we have every kind of emotion and feeling that we have is part of us being humankind. We all have good and bad thoughts, good and bad emotions. There is no good or bad. We can use them as spiritual guideposts. And if we're not feeling well, observing what we're thinking about, we're the only species on the planet. A horse can't do it, a cat can't do it, a bird can't do it. We can consciously observe how we feel, and we can consciously think about what we're thinking about. And we have the ability to make ourselves feel better in as little as 60 seconds. If we notice that we're thinking about something consciously that doesn't feel good, we change our thoughts to something that feels better. And
Yes.
And no other creation can do this.
And apparently, even no other creation, no other species can cry and shed tears. We're the only one that we know of that can shed tears. That's something to ponder. What do you, I mean, I really, it really hits home when you say that we are guilt tripped into not having certain feelings. Certain feelings are bad, certain emotions are bad, and then we repress these feelings. And as we repress them, we do not live them, we do not express them, and they stay stuck in us. That's my reading of the situation. Do you feel like that?
I agree with that. And a lot of that leads to disease, because we're really at this ease. And when we keep things bottled up in us, we don't have the flow. We can consciously feel our emotions, feel them completely. A lot of times we're trained that's a bad thought, a bad emotion, or whatever. You know, we don't want to just change the emotion. You need to sit with the emotion and completely feel it through.
Like anger.
Like anger. Feel into that anger and completely, don't just brush it aside like that's a bad thought or a bad emotion. We do need to process it. We don't need to hurt anybody else or anything, but we need to process it and really feel through it and really consciously acknowledge, I'm angry, why? Why are you angry? And ask the important questions and feel through it. And then you can completely let it go.
And do you find
you can tell if somebody doesn't let something go because they carry away things that happened with them years and years ago. People will talk about.
I found in my life that in order to survive, you go through a traumatic event, something that makes you very sad, but you must be tough in life to survive. So you just push the sadness away and be tough, move forward, and you need to do that sometimes because life sometimes is hard. But then I feel like 10 years later, I have all these unshed tears that I need to cry anyway to release it. Otherwise, it gets trapped in the body, creates anxiety, creates this unease, as you say. And have you lived that too, that you had to cry later on for the hurt that you lived through and didn't cry at the time?
Exactly. You need to feel and process it completely. And a lot of us, we're just, the reason I believe that we don't really feel through things, it's a protection mechanism. And I know with men, if we show weakness, we have that feeling that we're the hunter, we're the survivor, the provider, that lone wolf, that lone island. And if we show weakness and cry, we'll surely be devoured by the other wolves in the pack. And we ask ourselves, how come the suicide rate is 3 times higher in men than it is in women?
Because they have all these pent up tears inside, unshed tears.
Many of them go to war.
And have
a lot more inside of them. They've killed other men, but they've never processed and really felt it through. So we're coming upon a time during this decade of the soul, as many of our world spiritual leaders have called it, where we're now in the third ascension now, the third wave of ascension on the planet now. We're going to see many more changes to come. It's a very exciting time to be here. And we chose to be here now, right now. And that's the amazing part of it. We chose to be here.
And you say that even chose, like our souls choose to live the experience we lived through, even though it was hard, because it serves a purpose. That's how you see your life, because I mean, you've been beat up as soon as you were in your mother's womb. That's it started there, like right off the bat, you had a hard life. And you were also...
I got into the drugs and the addiction to drugs. And I tried everything to try to self-medicate myself and to hide that pain. I was self-medicating to hide the pain. Nobody ever told me that I needed to really feel with my heart and process what was going on in there. And nobody in my life, when I pull my head out of the fog once in a while and look around, and nobody in my life these answers had ever found. So after a while, it just became so hard to keep trying that I almost gave up and started living a life of complacency.
So Robbie, what enabled you to survive through all these abuses, through all this drama and these traumas, while others have not?
Divine intervention.
Tell me about it.
Well, I always knew there was a reason, but I had no clue what it was. I knew there was a reason why I was alive, but I had no clue what it was. And it wasn't until I had gone through a lot, I finally settled down. And instead of roaming from town to town to town like a tumbleweed, I settled down, got a legitimate job, paying taxes, became a truck driver. And, but I still self-medicated a lot.
With alcohol and drugs?
With alcohol and drugs. And I became complacent. But after a few years, it was like I was just watching my life go by me. Day after day, doing the same thing. Go to work, come home, smoke, drink, sleep, go to work. Like a robot. I wasn't living my life for many years. I was living the same life every day for years.
Could we say that you were resting, Robbie Lee, in the sense that life had been hard, a roller coaster, and at that moment in your life, you were relatively safe? Maybe bored, but safe. Everything was stable, wasn't chaotic as maybe before it was more?
It was kind of a false feeling of safety because I always had a yearning deep inside of me that there must be something more out there. I knew there had to be something more in life. And I got the notion that wouldn't it be great if I could just leave something, some kind of legacy, leave the world in a little bit better of a place than I had found it. And back then I got, there was during the real estate market collapse, and you could pick up properties really cheap, like 5 or 10 cents on a dollar. And I thought, well, since I had lost my union truck driving job and I became a general contractor, well, a handyman, general contractor, I was working down that way, that avenue. I mean, I've done a lot of different things in my lifetime. I've probably 40 or 50 different things I've done, only half a dozen that I got to do very well. But, I knew how to fix up houses. So I thought, well, this might be something I could help other people with. But the main thing was, it felt like it was taking advantage of other people who lost their home. And even though the only thing I could teach was other people how to take advantage of other people that lost their home, and I could make all this money and then I could contribute to charities or whatever, and maybe that would make a difference in the world. But I was kind of getting in on the tail end of that, and it just didn't feel right, taking advantage of other people. And I had always been a blue collar worker. I worked with my hands, starting from the farm. I never really understood or was very good at technology. And it was so hard for me to try to, you needed to be really good at technology because you got to run through literally tens, if not hundreds of thousands of properties and auctions and so forth to really pick up good deals. So I gave up on that dream. And then after that, very short time later, my father passed away and he was worth a lot of money. And I had never counted on it because he never did anything to support his kids. Most parents want to see their children do better than them. But he, after the war, he's kind of like to the conquer go the spoils, and he amassed a lot of wealth and he never got to spend it. He cut me and my baby brother out of the well. And it's literally, I watched my baby brother literally go insane over it. And I told him not to count on it because he'd never done anything to really help us kids.
So he was counting on that his father at the end would show some kind of love towards him, but it didn't come.
And leave him a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it didn't. He cut me and my brother completely out of the well. So the state was happy to help themselves with his money. But he literally went insane, and within a year he died. And then it was like within the year after that, I lost most of my hearing. And I didn't realize it because you lose your hearing very slowly. And I'd lost 85% of the hearing on this side. So I have the cochlear implant magnet here for that, and a regular hearing aid here on the side. I lost about 75% of my hearing. And I had to have 3 major head surgeries. And I remember the first one because they almost remove your ear, and then they chop out skull, and then they drill in and clean up. It's pretty intensive. They cut into your head, pretty intensive. And I was in so much pain. And I just at a point where I kind of like was giving up on life. Yes. Because I couldn't compete, be strong enough, so I settled down. And even that wasn't working. And I thought I could help people, but I gave up on that dream, which incidentally, I didn't realize at the time I was being pruned because I wasn't being fruitful. Gave up on that dream of helping other people. My health collapsed. And I was in so much pain. I was literally begging God to please let me die. Please, please just let me die. What's it worth? You know, my father died, my baby brother died. I almost died. You see, that's what it took, losing my hearing, to finally listen to the little voice inside that had always been trying to be my guide. And at first I was almost petrified. Whence cometh this little voice from inside? And it said clearly to me, Robbie Lee, there's a reason why you survive the lifestyle that you have lived when so many others that you have known are no longer alive. And that was the beginning of my awakening towards having trust and letting go of the ego and feeling into the heart space through gentle grace. I was awakened and I asked for help.
Who did you ask for help? Or did you ask like for the divine for help? Or did you ask somebody?
Coming from a very abusive man-made religious background, I didn't go see a priest or a pastor or anything like that. I reached out and told my doctor, I think I'm going through serious depression. They said, well, I think your insurance will cover it. We'll talk to the one that doesn't issue drugs. Psychologist or psychiatrist, I think is the one that can
prescribe drugs, yes.
So psychologist. So I started seeing a psychologist, and I saw this gentleman for about 6 months, and it was going like really loud or slow. It was like, and then one day he said, you know what? There's a group over here not far away, and I think your insurance will cover it. And it's a group. You meet in a group, not one-on-one. And so I checked it out and I got in, and it was amazing to see how many other people had the same feelings and emotions as me. And that was the beginning of realizing that heartfelt spiritual connectivity that's within all of us and how much we are all connected. And that was my mind shift paradigm of mind. That was my awakening.
To feel connected and feel in this group, it's just the connection started to heal you.
It started to heal me or change my perception. You know, that I always felt that I was so alone. You know, and many of us do. We feel that we're all alone out there. And it's the furthest thing that could be true. Because we all have the same feelings within us, me and you. We have the same emotions all around the planet now. We're becoming connected, and this is why we're going through the ascension. That's the good side of technology, is we realize that people all around the world have the same feeling, the same love, compassion for their children, their spouses, their community, and everybody is just trying to do the best they can. And the average woman and man doesn't want war. Nobody wins in war except the people in control. And they want that control, that power and greed. And they do that by instilling fear into the masses, which we see so much of on the news, which I like to call the fear media network.
It's true. Fear fuels war. You know, when you fear and the other is the enemy, that's when you start to disconnect and feel that you're threatened. So, Robbie Lee, what I hear from you is that the tipping point in your life was when you let go, like released of your need to have life a certain way, and that you dared to ask for help, to ask for support. So you made an active move there, like to ask for mental psychologist support and finally meet that group that helped you change your map of reality, actually.
Exactly. This ego wants to control. Ego thrives on control. But to connect the soul is to have trust and let go.
Have trust in life, have trust in what's unfolding. Robbie Lee, what advice would you give someone who has lived through difficult times and has lost that trust? Like, what would be the first step that you would advise that a person that has lived through lots of abuse begin with to heal?
Is to remember that you are love. You came from love. You are love. And you are love so deep. But you came from love. You were created from love. You came here to love. And you are love.
Can we pray together?
Pardon?
Can we pray together? To end this interview, I would invite you and would invite us to pray for all the people who are listening and all the children around the world now or then that are living through difficult times and abuse and violence.
Okay.
And let's just share this love and that they be touched by love, that this knowledge that they are here for a reason and they are loved. Would you like to add something?
Well, three major keys, I think, is a big one too, is you're worthy. You are worthy.
You are worthy.
And you are worthy of love. You're worthy of all of the amazing good qualities of life. I always felt worthless, which ego would make me try harder and harder and harder.
To prove yourself.
To prove myself. And ego thrives off of that. So you're loved, Be worthy, and you're not alone, are three major things to be open to. And don't be afraid to reach out to people. People see that you're really trying, not just giving up lip service, but you're willing to dedicate time into, if you want to call it self-improvement movement or law of attraction. You know, there's a lot of different modalities. I know I've learned in a short time, probably over 300 different techniques, processes, mantras, breathing exercises that I've learned and I've used, journaling exercises, breathing exercises, the list goes on and on. We have to be willing to devote a little bit of time. Consistency really does hold the golden key for you and me to be everything that we were designed and created to be. You can't just do it here and there, a little bit everywhere. I mean, we have, in every 24-hour day, we have 1,440 minutes. And realizing that you deserve to take a few of those every day to connect to your soul in a sacred way.
Robbie Lee, you offer our listeners a free discovery call. So we will join with this interview the link so that they can reach you. And if they want to connect with you, I will encourage everyone to receive your goodness and to receive your presence. That is, you understand what trauma is, and I feel that you have a special gift to offer the world and help people heal, and as you say, like fulfill their destiny.
So, truly resting in the awareness of our breath transforms our life into a living meditation. And living consciously is meant to be for you and me. And always remembering too, to live authentically, to love unconditionally, and always follow your destiny. Peace and sacred blessings may forevermore flow through and for you.
Thank you, Robbie Lee.
But by all means, anybody can reach out to me. I'm easy to talk to. No obligation. Set up a chat, talk to each other, find out where you're at. And if you're a vibrational match for me, because I don't work with just anybody. I've had people that we weren't a match. But if you want to work with me, I do know many modalities, techniques that can get you started into your awakening or further where you're at. Sometimes I've been there too. I've gotten to a certain plateau and I've kind of leveled off for a while. And I've had many mentors and teachers and guides that I'm so grateful for that have been in my life. I wouldn't be where I was now if I didn't reach out and ask for help and being consistent. So please.
Thank you. I think that's a call. Encourage everyone to reach out for help. Help is there. Help is available.
And you'll leave a link with my email address and you send me a friend request and we'll become friends. We can chat on Facebook Messenger or private messenger, whatever is easy. Keep it simple. You know?
Thank you. So this will end our interview, and I thank you so much for accepting the invitation.
Thank you so much, Joseline. I'm honored to be able to be with you now.